Good day, everyone. I'm Ma'am Carla, your tender-loving English teacher broadcaster. I'm glad to see you again, and I can see that you're all excited for our lesson. But before we proceed, let's have a quick recap about our discussion last time. Now, could you enumerate the 6 characteristics of good information to the person next to you? Perfect! The 6 characteristics of good information are accuracy, completeness, timeliness, consistency, relevance, and uniqueness. As a review activity, I want you to identify what is described in each sentence. Number 1, it is when information suits the demands, needs, and interests of the readers, and it is fit for the purpose assigned to it. What characteristic of information is this? You got it! It's relevant. Number 2, it is a characteristic of information that is visible when it is reliable, free from flaws, and of high quality. That's right! It is accuracy. Remember, accurate means correct. Number 3, it is said that information is a good one if it provides all the needed details and answers the WH question. Good! It is completeness. Number 4, what characteristic of information relates to the quality of being distinct or special in some ways? Awesome! It is uniqueness. And number 5, it is when information is up to date and readily available in the time it is needed for use. What characteristic of information is this? You're right, it is timeliness. Number 6, it refers to the state of reaching a level that does not change in quality over time. This characteristic could be achieved when information is unchanging and there is similarity in the format, use of terms, acronyms, and abbreviations. Nice! It is consistency. I guess you are now geared up for a new lesson. But, before moving on to that, could you help me complete this diagram right here? This is about a day in the life of Marie. I want you to think of the possible effects of Marie's actions. Yesterday, I saw Marie walking on the street. And guess what?
She wasn't wearing a face mask.
What do you think might happen to her
For not wearing a face mask.
That's right. She might be asked to pay a fine.
I tried to chase her, but she walked like she's in a marathon. Unfortunately, I did not catch her.
When I reached the market, I saw her again. And this time,
She was close to the crowd.
no physical distancing. Yes.
She might get infected with the virus.
And since Marie is a good friend of mine, I visited her in her house and brought some fruits. But to my surprise, she said she doesn't like them. I'm worried. What do you think? I know what you're thinking. Right. Her body might become weak. Great. Now we have completed the diagram. Bear in mind that if you don't wear a mask when you go out, officials might ask you to pay a fine. Wearing a face mask stops a person from contracting any airborne infectious germs and helps prevent the spread of the virus. When someone talks, coughs, or sneezes, he or she could release germs into the air that may infect others that are near him. Face masks are protective gear that is considered to be an infection control strategy to eliminate cross-contamination. If you don't observe physical distancing in public places, you might get infected with the virus. Since some of the COVID patients are asymptomatic or show no symptoms of the disease,
they can spread a virus
before they know they are sick. For this reason, it is highly advised to stay at least 6 feet away from others when possible. And if you refuse to eat healthy foods like fruits and vegetables, your body might be weakened and get sick. Now, let's look at our completed diagram. What does it look like? That's right, it looks like a fish. This diagram is one of the examples of textual aids in understanding texts. Textual aids are educational instruments that simplify comprehension of texts. They use graphical outlines or images that give the general idea of a topic. Let's have Brian as an example. Brian is an engineer at a solar installation company. On his first day of work, he was given a task to solve a mathematical problem by his boss. At first, he was so excited to do it.
But his excitement turned into a nightmare
when he opened a folder that contains his assignment. He had a hard time analyzing the problem since it was written in paragraph format. Good thing, his fellow worker Bea was willing to help. She simplified the text by using tables, graphs, and some drawings. At last, Brian aced his first day of work. Another is Catherine. Catherine is a grade 10 researcher who tried to explain her study about the effects of social media on the decision-making skills of young people. She started by reading the chapter 4 of her manuscript, which includes the interpretation and analysis of data. However, she suddenly stopped when one of her classmates said that he couldn't understand what she was explaining. She felt quite annoyed because she knew that she speaks clearly. But the professor stood up and asked her to present the tables of the result of her study instead. She ended with a big smile because the whole class was impressed with her presentation, and she even got a 95 for it. See, life is easy when you make things easy. Take note that textual aids are instruments that serve as a better visual method that promote faster learning and better comprehension. There are several examples of textual aids. First is the cause and effect diagram, which emphasizes the connection between different concepts. This explores why something happened or might happen by organizing potential causes into smaller categories. It can also be essential for presenting relationships between contributing factors and can be applied to all subject areas. When we talked about a day in the life of Marie, we examined the results of her actions and organized them using a cause and effect diagram. We wrote her actions or the causes on the top part of the diagram, and the results or the effects of what she did below it. Cause and effect diagram is more commonly known as the fishbone diagram. Obviously, it's because the diagram resembles a fish skeleton with a head to the right of the diagram and the body branching off behind it to the left. Now, let's have a more complex example. Suppose you are an honor student aspirant and suddenly you notice that you lost enthusiasm in studying.
You decide to use the cause and effect diagram
To analyze the root cause of your problem. How do you do that? Apparently, you need to state your problem first. So we write,
why have I lost my enthusiasm in my studies?
Next, define the categories you will use to guide the brainstorming process. It could be school, peers, family, and self. Now, brainstorm each category. For school, it could be the curriculum and classroom structure. If you have a hard time coping with the subjects comprising the course of your study. The instructional methods, if the teaching approaches used are not appealing to you. And the learning environment, if there is a lack of security and the norms and regulations implemented in your school don't motivate you at all. For peers, it could be bad company. If you associate yourself with other students who have the opposite mindset as yours and practice bad habits. And bullying. So that's bad company and bullying for the peer category. For family, it could be broken relationships, lack of parental support, if your parents don't involve themselves in your school-related matters, and family socioeconomic status, if your family could not afford to support your education financially. Again, we have broken relationships, lack of parental support, and family socioeconomic status for this sort. And for self, it could be your habits. If you tend to be lazy and spend your time with not so important matters, social media to name a few. And self-doubt. If you think you cannot achieve your goal and get discouraged easily. We have habits and self-doubt for our last category. After investigating
why you have lost enthusiasm
in your studies, you could now easily think of your action plan to change and
make your dream of becoming an honor student a reality.
In a nutshell, a fishbone or Ishikawa diagram is very useful as it helps in finding out the root cause of a problem. Another example is the flow diagram. This is a sequence chart that shows order or series of events. We use this
in concepts that follow processes.
When presenting about the process of baking a chocolate cake, we could use a flow diagram. Let's try! First, we have to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Second, we line the bottom of our pan with a parchment paper. This is to prevent the cake from sticking to the pan. Now, for the batter, mix the sugar, flour, cocoa powder, baking soda, baking powder, and salt in a large bowl. In another large bowl, whisk the eggs, water, milk, oil, and vanilla extract together. Add the wet ingredients to the dry ones. Mix until fully combined. Then, pour the batter mixture in the pan. Put it in the oven and bake it for 25 to 30 minutes. We now have a flow diagram that shows the process of baking chocolate cake. And you should also know by heart that a flow diagram is a visual illustration of the sequence of steps or decisions necessary to accomplish a process. Next, Venn diagram. This textual aid is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or
concepts that use
two overlapping circles.
Let's differentiate face-to-face from distance learning.
Both of them are a variety of learning modalities where differentiated learning and individual and group activities are implemented. They are mutually facilitated by a teacher. On the other hand, face-to-face learning is a traditional instructional method where the teaching and learning process happens in a classroom setup. Teachers and students are obliged to come to school. While distance learning is a modern studying method in which lessons are broadcasted in media and/or classes are conducted over the internet. This does not require teachers and students to attend school. There we have it, a Venn diagram that contains similarities and differences between face-to-face and distance learning. And remember, a Venn diagram is a textual aid that uses overlapping circles to show how things are alike and different. Last but not the least, graphic organizer. A graphic organizer,
Also known as a concept map.
or concept diagram, is a visual display that includes content information that shows relationships of ideas and provides learners with structure for abstract concepts. As we know, abstract concepts are ideas that cannot be directly experienced through our senses. These are ideas that have no physical form, such as love, morality, civilization, and so on. Let's see how a graphic organizer works. Here is an example of a graphic organizer of the abstract concept, civilization. As you could see, the main topic, civilization, is placed in the middle.
Around it is the content information associated with it.
We have history, people, society, government, social classes, culture, tradition, politics, economy, war, and geography. It's your turn. What comes into your mind when you hear the word school? Brainstorm, grade 10. Okay, it could be study, class, classroom, lesson, books, pen and paper, assignment, activities, teacher, classmates, principal, friends, fun, goals, graduate, and future, and so on. Class, that's what a graphic organizer is. If you find organizing your thoughts and information difficult, well, a graphic organizer is designed for you. It could help you identify an area of focus when examining a broad topic. Is everything crystal clear? Great! Keep in mind that textual aids are educational instruments that simplify comprehension of texts. They use graphical outlines or images that give the general idea of a topic. And again, they make our lives easy. Now, be ready with your pen and paper and your self-learning module. Let's have Learning Task 5 on page 13 of your self-learning module. In your notebook, transform the text into a non-textual information source. Be sure to use the correct textual aid type. Sharks and whales are a classic example of two different animals revealing similar traits in the same environment. One of the similarities of these two marine animals is their habitat. They both live in the vast range of depth in their environment. They also have the same fin structure. They only have a single tail for propulsion, and because they are both large aquatic animals, they both consume large volume of food. However, sharks hunt for their food. Whales do not have this hunting tendency. Another difference of sharks to whales is their class. Whales are mammals, while sharks are fish, but they both live in the ocean. Also, whales have bones, while sharks
only have cartilage.
You have 30 seconds to answer this. Time's up! What textual aid did you use?
A Venn diagram,
Excellent!
we transpose that linear text to a non-linear one.
Using a Venn diagram because it is about the similarities and differences of whales and sharks. Now, let's check. The characteristics of whales are: do not hunt for their food, a kind of mammal,
And have bones, while sharks
hunt for their food, a kind of fish, and have cartilages.
For their similarities, both of them are marine animals, have single tail for propulsion, and consume large volume of food.
You did it! Remember, a Venn diagram is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. Finally, for your assignment, I want you to create a vlog about your favorite dish. Present the steps in preparing or cooking it using a flow diagram. Post it on your social media account with the hashtag DepEd tayo my favorite dish. Enjoy vlogging! I'll see you again next time for another episode of Fun Learnings. Always remember, learning English may be difficult at first, but if you put your heart in it, you will surely love it. Again, I am Ma'am Carla. Heart your service.